Good evening, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to tonight's virtual health presentation. This is in lieu of our Bible study that normally convenes on each Wednesday, but tonight we have a special guest, and we're excited to share with each of you on this Wednesday evening. And so we invite you even now to share, to like, and to call persons that you know would benefit from this particular presentation tonight. We're so excited, and we do not want to, again, not take what is going to be presented and be useful with it tonight. So I'm asking you now to share, to like, to call, to text someone that you know that needs to have a little bit more information about the necessity of taking care of our physical temples, otherwise known as our body. So again, we welcome each and every one of you. This is broadcasted through our YouTube channel, our Facebook live channel. You can also hear the presentation via our conference call line. And so we welcome each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us. Again, we welcome Greater Faith, as well as our extended family and all the others who are tuning in tonight from near and from far. We welcome you this evening. We want to begin by opening up with the word of prayer, after which I'll share just a few highlights that we need to be mindful of this week, and then we'll jump right into our presentation, introduction of our presenter tonight. Let us pray. God, we thank you for this time of sharing, this time of gathering. We pray your blessing upon each of us. Thank you for how you kept us since the last time we were together. And so now we invite your presence even now in this presentation. We thank you for those who are watching, both again on the various social media platforms and conference call who will tune in. We thank you for all that you will do. Help us tonight to be hearers of your word, but God, more importantly, to be doers of your word. Bless us now in our time together. We thank you for our presenter. Give him all that he needs to share with us tonight. Bless us and keep us. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. Amen. Also, want to share a virtual flyer for those of you who are in church on Sunday or even caught the virtual highlights. We want to share with you, and I'm going to put it on the screen. Our presenter is no stranger to this community. He is a medical doctor at the Stanford Health Medical Group. He is very much trained, and more importantly, he is medical school. He attended the University of Health Science Chicago Medical School, did his residency program at Duke Hospital, and internal medicine, excuse me, and did his fellowship at Johns Hopkins Hospital. So we're excited to welcome Dr. Edward Schuster tonight to be our presenter. And it is going to be a wonderful, wonderful, engaging dialogue. The title of this particular presentation, while it will cover a plethora of things, the title is really How to Live to be 110 Years Old Without Disability. So we welcome to the virtual platform, Dr. Edward Schuster. Take it away, Doc. We're in your hands. All right. Let us give him some virtual hand claps as we welcome him to the Bethel Church for tonight's presentation. Welcome, Dr. Schuster.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank Reverend Jackson for having me tonight. I've been giving this talk for 40 years, and I hope you'll enjoy it and have some fun and learn. Everything I know, I'm going to tell you in about a half an hour, and these are important points to stay healthy and live a long time. Everything we're going to talk about has been scientifically proven. I'm not making anything up. Things do change in medicine, so some things that I had on this list 20, 30 years ago have taken off. Some new things have been added on. And remember, some of the things we're going to talk about give you an extra 10 years of life. Some give you an extra 10 days. How old is the oldest person who ever has lived? The answer is 122 years. The oldest person is 122 years. And as the Reverend knows, the Bible gives you 120. So if you ask me how long do I think people can live to, I think it's 120. Now, people say I don't want to live to be 120, but if you're 115 and you're going to church and you're walking around and taking care of yourself, it's a different story. So the idea is not only to live a long time, but to live healthy. So on my list, number one, be lucky and be blessed. So I can't help you there. Things can happen to people, so you have to be blessed. There's over 100,000 people who are over 100. Most are women, but men are catching up. And this is becoming more and more common to see people who live to be 100. The oldest that I've ever had with a heart patient is 106. The whole idea of this talk is to be proactive, not reactive. We want to stay healthy. We want to stay out of the hospital. We want to avoid getting sick. If you want to know what diseases you really got to watch out for, look at your family. Look at what your brothers and sisters have. Look at what your parents have. So God forbid, if your sister had breast cancer, you want to make sure you don't get it. If your father had colon cancer, you want to make sure you didn't get it. For some reason that I don't understand, God does put some bad genes into people that will give them diseases as they get older. Pretty soon, in a couple of years, when you go to your doctor, you'll have a genetic test telling you what diseases you have and what diseases you don't have. That's a little scary, but it's coming. And when we talk about genetic diseases, I ask people, would you like to be able to change genes? Would you like to be able to change the future? And most people say, no, don't mess around with genes. But then I say, if God forbid you knew that your kid or your grandkid had the gene for leukemia, and when they were 5 years old, they were going to get this terrible disease, lose their hair, get chemotherapy, end up in the hospital, and maybe die, and you could take that gene out, then people say, yeah, go right ahead, take it out. So that's called CRISPR, C-R-I-S-P-E-R, CRISPR engineering, where you can take out bad genes. For example, people with sickle cell anemia, which is a terrible disease, you can take that gene out, and they're starting to do that now. So that's called genetic engineering. Now, it's a little scary because you don't want people taking genes so your kid's going to be taller or smarter. But if there's bad diseases and we can take them out, it's not a bad idea to do it. So that's called CRISPR engineering. No smoking. So when we talk about getting 10 more years, no
Dr.
smoking.
Schuster, if I may interject, I just wanted to ask questions. Of course, as we shared last evening, I'll be interrupting at some points during your presentation just to expound a little bit more. Is that procedure covered by insurance, or that's something that persons would need to be prepared to pay out of pocket?
Right now, CRISPR engineering is still considered experimental. So it's being no cost. But CRISPR is actually a company on the stock exchange, and they come pretty soon for sickle cell anemia and thalassemia anemia, where they'll be doing CRISPR engineering, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be covered by insurance.
Okay.
You know, keeping kids out of the hospital with sickle cell crisis will end up saving a lot of money. So
Sure.
Your life. 21% of Americans still smoke. And I think that smoking marijuana is probably going to end up being just as dangerous as smoking cigarettes. So if you want to do that, my suggestion is eat it, don't smoke it. What we're doing now is, because smoking is coming down in the United States, so we're sending the cigarettes to China, to India, to Africa, to Indonesia, and we're poisoning other countries, which is really a disaster across the world. 10 million people die every year. 10 million people die every year from smoking. Lung cancer is the number one killer of women in Connecticut, not breast cancer. So we have to get rid of smoking. There's no such thing as light smoking. A couple of cigarettes a day is bad for you. Married people live 7 years longer. The joke.
Doc, just one more. I'm sorry. Now, the smoking, does that include vaping as well? Because that is on the rise, particularly among our young people. And some would say that is a segue to, of course, what you just mentioned.
Smoking cigarettes, pipes, cigars, vaping, all lead to lung disease and probably lung cancer. And, you know, I watch a lot of the videos, and a lot of the rappers and rock stars like to smoke a cigar once in a while. I think if you have a cigar once a month, it's okay. But if you're smoking a cigar every day, or a pipe or vaping, it's just as bad for you as smoking cigarettes. Good question. Married people live 7 years.
Thank you. Also, for those who are watching, please enter your comments in the section of the comment section. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, you can enter comments there so we can pose a question, perhaps to Dr. Schuster as he's presenting on that particular topic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to take questions during the talk. You don't have to save them up for afterwards.
Okay, sounds good.
Married people live 7 years longer. The joke is it just seems 7 years longer. Married men need women. If the wife dies, the man usually dies pretty quickly. On the other hand, women, if the husband dies, can live 10, 20, 30, 40 years, because we all know that women are a lot stronger than men. Divorced men die the soonest. Keep socially engaged. Be involved in things like tonight. Live with someone. Be active. You want to be with people. Japan is the country where women live the longest. Iceland's the country where men live the longest. Hawaii is the state in the United States where people live the longest. Connecticut's number 4, which is not bad. The less air pollution, the less traffic, the longer you live. The nicer the neighborhood, the longer you live. It doesn't matter who your doctor is, it matters what your zip code is. Now, let me say that one more time. It doesn't matter who your doctor is, it matters what your zip code is. So if your zip code is in a community that's well-to-do, you live a lot longer than in other communities. And this is something we have to work on. The top 1% of people who make a lot of money live 20 years longer than the bottom 1%. So why do Black and brown people die more from COVID? Why do Black and brown people die more from heart disease? Why do Black and brown people die more during pregnancy? It's not because there's something in their genes that make them die. It's not because they don't get treated well in the hospital. It's what happens before they get sick. It's growing up. It's what they eat. It's obesity. It's not getting to see the doctor when they need to. It's not getting proper care when you're pregnant. So this is what's called structural racism in the United States, where certain communities have it much better off than other communities. And then the people live 10, 20 years longer. So in Stamford, Connecticut, we've been working for a long time to try to eliminate this. Thanks to help from Alexandra Cohn and her foundation, we've been working in the schools with children for obesity. We've built 2 gymnasiums, one in West Hill and Stanford High School for non-athletes to exercise. During COVID, we went out with vans to vaccinate people in Black and brown communities. We built a beautiful new hospital in Stanford where every room is private and everybody gets the same room. And now we're working with the 100 Black Man organization in Stanford to go out in the community and try to even things out so everybody gets the same healthy foods and everybody gets the same medical care so that everybody has the same chance to live to be 110. In the United
Rob, thank
States,
you so much. Can I interject once again? We a lot of the good things that you were saying, we were kind of going in and out. So this information will be available. Just wanted to make that. I think it already probably was sent out in terms of the list of things that you mentioned. But I do want to also highlight, and I just heard this yesterday on the radio, that McDonald's continues to have major sales. They're selling 8 million hamburgers a day. And of course, you talk about obesity and you talk about, unfortunately, when it comes to the Black and brown communities, I think that also has to be discussed as well, that just because it's fast, it's not necessarily healthy. And in some cases, meaning the powers that be, in those kind of stores and restaurants where we live. And so you mentioned during COVID, that was a prime example of various avenues of being creative to make sure a person still can be active. But we know that, especially here in Stanford and on the west side where our church is located, this has been considered, even before COVID, obesity is really high, and numbers of high blood pressure, you name it. And on the west side of Stanford is more so than any other place in Stanford. So you're right on target. And could you speak a little bit to fast foods? What does that kind of, how do you feel about that?
my 3 kids went to West Hill High School. West Hill High School, you can't really go out for lunch. You
Right.
only get, and you don't have time to go someplace for lunch, so you eat in the cafeteria. We've done a lot better with cafeteria food, eliminating. By the way, the 3 things that are the most fattening are soda, potato chips, and French fries. So we've
Not
eliminated
cookies?
enough.
I'm good then, not cookies.
So you can really eat healthy now in the schools. But the problem when you go into certain cities, like Newark or the Bronx or Brooklyn, into mostly Black and brown communities, guess what? You can walk out of your school and within 1 to 2 blocks is a McDonald's, a Kentucky Fried Chicken, a tobacco store. So again, this is structural racism where these kids can walk out and get crap food and buy cigarettes and get back to school in time for class. But the kids in the suburbs can't do that, so they don't have the opportunity. And bad food tastes good, is easy to get, and is cheap. Good food is hard to get, hard to make, is expensive, and doesn't taste so good. So it's not easy combating obesity, but we've done pretty good in Stanford, and we have to do better across the country.
Absolutely. One other question that just came through. Linda Perry mentioned, what percentage of environmental exposure affects health?
That's getting scarier and scarier. They came out a couple of weeks ago and said air pollution is now killing more people than smoking. I know that this is going to go across the country, but Connecticut thinks the air is pretty good. But actually, a lot of the air from the Midwest, from the companies, comes across Connecticut. You've got I-95 nearby, so if you've got airplanes flying over you, if you've got factories, if you've got I-95 and there's a lot of air pollution, it's as bad for you as smoking. So, we've just got to clean up our planet.
Thank you.
So, people always, how much should I sleep? 6 to 8 hours is the magic number for sleep. We want to stay out of the hospital. We want to do everything we can to stay out of the hospital. If you're in the hospital, be careful, check your medications, make sure people wash their hands when they come in to see you. And if grandma's in the hospital, try to have somebody keeping an eye on her to help out, to make sure she doesn't fall out of bed, things like that. Education's important. Go to school. The more you go to school, the longer you live. All disease, dementia is terrible. It's affecting about 12% of Americans. We spend more money on dementia in the United States than we spend on cancer.
Wow.
Again, if you're really rich and somebody in your family gets dementia, you can put them in a home or you can hire somebody and keep them at home. What do you do if you don't have a lot of money? You can't afford $100,000 a year to put somebody in a home. You can't afford somebody to watch that person. It's really devastating. The only thing you can do to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's is exercise. So I encourage everybody who's listening, I don't care what you do, exercise adds 10 years to your life. Exercise prevents dementia. Walking around the block, silver sneakers if you have Medicare, anything you can do is important. And that's why, again, we built 2 gyms, one in Sanford, one in Westhill High School for the kids who are not athletes to exercise. And we have thousands and thousands of kids who are doing this. One of the kids got a very nice letter from Michelle Obama. So you have to work in the community to exercise the kids and to exercise the adults.
Are there any foods that you could eat that would also help with dementia? We've heard, again, I'm not sure if it's factual or if it's a myth or whatnot, but they talk about peanuts and I think crossword puzzles was something else. As long as you're stimulating your mind, well, is that true? Outside of exercise, is that?
We thought it was, and we're going to get it in about 5 minutes. But we were disappointed. A study just came out called the MIND study, MIND, where people were given healthy diets to try to prevent cognitive decline, dementia, and it didn't seem to make a difference. So medically speaking, exercise, but that means just walking around the block a couple times every day, or if you're stuck in an apartment, walking up and down the halls 10 times a day. Anything you do makes a difference. Balance training. Falling down is the number 4 killer of seniors. One more. Falling down is the number 1 killer of seniors. I probably have 20 or 30,000 heart patients. I have more patients die every year from falling down than from heart attacks. If you're going up and down the stairs, hold on to the banister. Don't carry something with 2 hands. The bathroom is the most dangerous room in the house. Coming in the shower, the tub, be careful. If it's winter and you have problems with balance and it's snowing and it's icy, stay inside. You have a doctor's appointment, cancel it. Don't go out on an icy day. So balance training, we can do that for you at the Tully Center. That's covered by Medicare. So if there's somebody in your family who is falling down or is having problems, call up your doctor, do physical therapy for balance training.
Now, could you also share what we mentioned yesterday about this new sport that's coming on the horizon, pickleball. And here in Stanford, we have actually, from what I'm told and have been reading, the largest pickleball facility in the world at this point. And you shared some interesting facts yesterday about that. Would you mind?
Yeah, I think all exercise is great. The problem with pickleball is if you're 80 years old and you're playing pickleball and somebody hits a shot to the side or over your head and you try to react quickly, you might fall down. And it's turning out that pickleball is
Mhm.
because of broken hips. The other thing to watch out for is walking the dog. If you're walking a big dog, that's also you got to be extra careful. So I encourage people to do safe exercise, walking. If you have access to a pool, walking in the pool, going to the gym. If you're in great shape and your balance is good and you want to play pickleball and you're a senior citizen, go right ahead. But be careful. Wear your seatbelts. 13% of Americans still don't wear your seatbelts. Don't drink. 30,000 Americans die every year in cars. 30,000 Americans. And the scary thing is a lot of them are kids because the kids are in the car. And drinking and driving is devastating. I think there was an article that said something like if 60 giant airplanes crashed every year, would you get upset? And of course, but 6,000 teenagers die every year from drinking and driving, and we don't seem to get upset. There is technology where you have to blow into the steering wheel to get the car to start. There are keys that test you for alcohol. This technology is out there. I think we have to really push people to be careful about that. As far as using your phone is concerned, obviously we don't want you texting, we don't want you on the phone. And quite frankly, we don't want you on the phone, even if it's through the computer. My wife, if she drives to New York for an hour, is talking to her friends for an hour while she's driving. And I don't think that you can drive and talk to people at the same time and really be safe.
I
So
think you're right.
put some
Yes, sir.
good music on, but don't be talking to other people. Wear helmets if you're bike riding, if you're skiing, if you're snowboarding. Going to church, synagogue, or mosque adds 7 years to your life. Going to church
Say that again, Doc. Can you say that again? I want to make sure people are tuned up and tuned in. Say that last piece again, please.
adds 7 years to your life. Now,
Church adds 7 years to your life. Did y'all hear that? Bethel Lights and all others, 7 years to your life. I'm telling you, we're going to live to 110.
there's two explanations for that.
Mm-hmm.
People go to church are socially engaged. They're with other people. They tend to be people who don't smoke. They tend to be people who take their pills. The other explanation is somebody smiling on you. I'm not sure what the answer is, but we encourage people to go to church, mosque, or synagogue. 7 more years.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about cholesterol. Cholesterol causes hardening of the arteries. Hardening of the arteries causes heart attack, stroke, dementia. So don't live near fast food restaurants. The Reverend talked about McDonald's. Be careful in restaurants what you order. People who have skinny friends tend to be skinnier. So pick your friends. The magic
Wow.
number, LDL, Larry David Larry, the LDL. The LDL is the poison cholesterol that clogs up your arteries. I want your LDL 70 or less. The lower the better. You can't be too skinny. You can't have too good a cholesterol. So ask your family doctor. If you're in the Optimist clinic, ask the clinic doctor, is my LDL good? If it's not good, fix it. Oh, and the diet that I like is the Mediterranean diet, which is lots of olive oil, lots of canola oil, stay away from vegetable oil and butter, lots of vegetables, lots of fish and chicken, nuts. You can have some coffee. You can have a piece of dark chocolate. You can have a glass of wine or a scotch. So once again, the Mediterranean diet, the Italian, French diet, lots of olive oil. I think olive oil is God's gift to people. Lots of fish, lots of nuts, lots of fruits and vegetables, oatmeal, broccoli, tomatoes, blueberries. If you want some alcohol, you can have it. Coffee. Think of the Garden of Eden. Who knows where it was? Was it in Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Israel? Nobody knows where the Garden of Eden is. But when God put Adam and Eve out in the Garden of Eden, what did they have to eat? They had water, they had fish in the water, they had nuts, they had grapes, they had olives, they had fruits and vegetables. So basically, the Garden of Eden diet is the Mediterranean diet. So what God wanted us to eat in the beginning of life is what we should be eating now. The Mediterranean diet adds 10 years to your life. Exercise adds 10 years to your life. No smoking adds 10 years to your life. Those are the three big ones.
Yes, sir. I think we have a couple persons that are responding. Marie, who is a social worker at the Stanford Hospital, wants to share information. Seniors or family members can access home care agencies to evaluate home for safety, i.e. rugs where items are stored high up. That's good information.
That's an idea. I had a patient today who had a loose piece of carpet and slipped and banged herself. So no loose carpets in the house.
Mm-hmm. And she also adds home care evaluations through Medicare.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Perfect. Thank you, Sister Marie.
Watch your blood pressure. One of the major reasons the Black and brown community gets more kidney disease, which is a bad thing to get, is too much high blood pressure. We have patients for high blood pressure. All these medicines are generic. They're cheap. You can get them at Target for $10 a month. So there's no excuse. If you have high blood pressure, please take medicine.
Now, in addition to that, there are vitamins that, in most cases, at least the ones that I take and have seen, they have an option that the multivitamins helps reduce your blood pressure. Would you suggest persons take multivitamins as a way to kind of help offset the blood pressure and other things as well?
My feeling about vitamins is what we call complementary medicine. I believe if people want to take vitamins and supplements, go right ahead, but take them with the regular medications. So it's complementary. They work together. We'll get to vitamins in a minute. For women, so they don't get breast cancer. Prostate screening. Prostate cancer is especially prevalent in Black men. Get your PSA checked. Don't believe the story that prostate cancer isn't that bad. A million Americans every year. Tell your doctor you don't want to get prostate cancer. Colon cancer, the colonoscopy is not a lot of fun, but those are the three cancers you really can screen for: colon cancer, prostate cancer, and breast cancer. Dentition, go to the dentist. The less plaque in your mouth, the less plaque in your arteries. Believe it or not, people who brush their teeth twice a day get less heart attacks than people who don't brush their teeth. So if you're scared about dying from a heart attack, which, by the way, is the number one killer still in the United States, and if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, And if you want to know if you're at risk of getting a heart attack, there's a very, very simple test out there called a calcium score, where you lay down under the camera for 1 minute, you keep your clothes on, there's no needles, there's no injections, and we can see if there's any cholesterol plaque in your artery. So if you're 40 or 50 years old and you smoke or diabetes or you have cholesterol or mom or dad got a heart attack, tell your doctor you want to get a calcium score. If your score is 0, home free, but if your score is not 0, that means you're building up plaque. So every 50 years old should get a calcium score.
Over 50?
Over 50, if
Okay.
you have risk factors like dad 50 or you smoke, have diabetes, somewhere between 40 and 50. If your cholesterol is high and your doctor says take a cholesterol pill, take a cholesterol pill. People are scared about cholesterol pills. I'm not scared about cholesterol pills, but I'm scared about a heart attack or a stroke. And these pills can dramatically decrease your risk of getting a heart attack or stroke. And once again, in the Black and brown communities, the use of cholesterol pills is lower than it should be. So take your blood pressure pills if you need it, take your cholesterol pills if you need it. It's a lot better than getting a heart attack or a stroke. Baby aspirin. We used to give everybody baby aspirin to prevent a heart attack. We are not doing that anymore. So if you've had a heart attack, a bypass, or a stroke, we want you on baby aspirin. But if you just want to prevent getting a heart attack or a stroke, baby aspirin is no longer indicated. Vitamins. If you want to take vitamins, go right ahead. But getting back to the Garden of Eden, vitamins that God put in olives for olive oil, the vitamins that God put in grapes for wine, the vitamins that God put in fish, in nuts, in fruits and vegetables, these vitamins prevent heart attack, stroke, cancer, and Alzheimer's disease. The problem is when you try to suck these vitamins and make them, and most of the vitamins, by the way, are made in China, they don't seem to work as good as in natural vitamins. So if you want to, let's go right ahead. But my suggestion is get most of your vitamins from the foods that have great vitamins in them.
So, Doc, so just confession. I know you are the physician and not our priest, or in some sense, but just so I know during the height of COVID, we and myself included, and I was sharing with my biological family to stock up on vitamins, even though because I was just reading a whole lot of stuff, hearing things that you needed your airborne, you needed your 500 or 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and you needed your vitamin D because it was said and shared with us that most people that were receiving or getting COVID at the time were lacking in vitamin D. So I was stocking up on vitamin D in addition to the multivitamins, and then there was a couple other elderberry. So I was taking almost 7 vitamins a day to help again fend off what we know and now more about now of COVID. And so I'm hearing you saying that it is you can take it if you want, but it's really what we eat is what I'm hearing you saying that would help us to live and be healthy. Because what I did notice, and I'll say this and I'll conclude, that when I was taking vitamin C, and I still am, that I'm less likely to develop a cold. I have allergies, but I'm less likely to develop colds, flus, and that kind of thing. What's your take on that, or what would the suggestions be?
Again, both. We're talking complementary. Sometimes it's hard to get good food.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to cook fish. So that if you don't have a really good diet, supplement it with vitamins. But again, my suggestion is take your supplements, vitamins, but also eat healthy, and try to get your vitamins also from olive oil, fish, nuts, fruits, and vegetables.
Mhm.
So let's talk about COVID and vaccinations for a minute. The bad news is there's a lot of COVID out there. We've had all of our heart doctors get COVID in the past week or two. The good news is it's not that bad a COVID. For most people, it's kind of like getting a cold. And remember, for years, we've been getting colds every once in a while. Who should get a vaccination? If you're over 65, you want to seriously consider getting a vaccination for COVID. It's out there now. If you're under 65 and you're healthy and you don't want to get a vaccination, I'm okay. But if you're over 65, especially if you have diabetes, obesity, heart disease, or kidney disease, you want to consider getting a vaccination for COVID. Flu season is coming. We do recommend that everybody gets vaccinated for the flu in October. I know some people are scared of vaccinations. I don't like getting vaccinations myself, but I'm a lot more scared of COVID than I am scared of vaccinations. And the idea is if you get the vaccination and you get COVID, it won't be that bad and you won't be in the hospital. And most importantly, vaccinations prevent people from dying from COVID.
Mhm.
75 or 80, and she's got diabetes and she's got obesity, she wants to get a COVID vaccination.
Now, could you answer just in terms of, and I know this may not be your area of specialty, but for those who perhaps may have contracted the virus, um, I just read a couple of days ago as well, they're saying immunity now would be anywhere from 4 to 6 months, that you would have enough antibodies built up from your COVID exposure. Is that true? And then also, if persons are over 65 and they've contracted the virus, what is the time frame that one would consider before they get a booster shot, and if it's needed?
Excellent question. You're 100% correct. If you have COVID, you get 4 to 6 months natural immunity.
Mm-hmm.
The infectious disease doctors, to be on the safe side, are saying 4 months. So that if you've had COVID a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, you don't want to get the shot now. You want to wait a couple of months. So you do have immunity. The problem is there are some people out there who say, I had COVID 2 years ago and have immunity from that. And I wish, but that's not true. Again, if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, and you're healthy and you don't want to get a vaccine, it's okay with me because your chances of dying from COVID are very, 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 very small. But if you're over 65, especially if you have diabetes, obesity, hypertension, get the vaccine. So let's end with stress management. Laugh a lot, put family first, enjoy weekends, don't be hostile. So they did a fascinating study 100 years ago where they looked at 10,000 5-year-olds in California, and then they watched them for their whole life. The doctors who did the study have died already. Other doctors have taken it over. And they looked at these 5-year-olds and they watched them as they became 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. And they tried to find out what separated the 5-year-olds who lived a long time from the 5-year-olds who died young. And what's interesting and fascinating is the number one thing that separated the people who lived a long time from the people who died young was a psychological trait.
Mm.
So I ask people and they answer, well, the kids who laughed a lot. No. You know, the kids who played a lot with other kids. No. What separated the kids who lived a long time from the kids who died young was kids who were conscientious and careful were the ones who lived a long time. So if you have kids and you're looking at your 5, 6, 7 year old and they're careful in what they're doing and they're conscientious about, brushing their teeth and taking care of themselves, those were the kids who, when they were 15, didn't smoke. Those were the kids who, when they were 20, didn't drink and drive. Those were kids who, when they were 40, got their mammograms. Those were kids when they were 50, got a checkup. Those were kids who exercised regularly and ate healthy. So the bottom line from this entire talk is be proactive, be careful, be conscientious, take care of yourself, get your checkups, take your medicine if you need it, do what you have to do, eat healthy so you don't end up sick and you don't end up in the hospital. Enjoy life. This is not a dress rehearsal. Thank you, everybody, very much. And I'll take as many questions as you have.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Wonderful information. And Dr. Schuster, we're grateful that you were able to spend some time with us this evening. For those of you who are watching us on the various forms of social media, please indeed feel free to put any comments or questions in the chat so we can pose those to Dr. Schuster. All right. Any questions?
Four booster shots. Do I need another one?
All right. Question was asked. A person has 4 booster shots. Do they need another one, particularly around this new strand?
Okay, great question. The booster shot, just like natural immunity from getting COVID, lasts 4 to 6 months. So regrettably, if you're high risk, if you're 75 years old with diabetes, hypertension, and you got a shot 6 months ago, it's time for another shot. Now, hopefully, they are trying to come out with a shot that lasts a whole year. Hopefully, they're trying to come out with a shot that covers all types of COVID. And hopefully, they're trying to come out with a nasal spray where you can squirt, boom, boom, instead of getting a needle. So they are working on things to make life better and easier. But this virus is out there, and it doesn't like people. And remember, the only, why did God put bacteria and viruses out in the world? Who knows? But the major idea of viruses is to get into people and make them sick and kill them. So every 6 months for a booster.
Yeah, and of course, I think there's some hesitancy, as we know, because with every strand, there's different side effects, or there's different things that goes along with the boosters. So some people maybe want to see more of the evidence of if it's working, more trials. How do you think we should proceed with that? Do you think we should wait until we see more people take the particular booster that's coming out, just to see? Because my fear is, and I think having just had COVID last week, and have been masked for 5 days, and now I'm good, but every time another strain comes out, there's another booster supposedly. So would you say we need to wait to see the kind of results, or what would you say?
I'd say for you, Reverend, being young and healthy, you don't need to get boosters if you don't want them. But if grandma's 80 in a nursing home, or grandma's 80 in his home, and grandma's got diabetes, hypertension, obesity, kidney disease, had open heart surgery, you want to take care of grandma. So, my emphasis is giving shots to people who are over 65 and sick. If
Mhm.
you're under 65, or if you're 65, 70 and you're super healthy and you don't want to get a shot, I don't care.
Okay. Another question, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this word, but maybe you can see it, Doc. How does semi-glutide decrease your chance of heart disease? I think that's
Good question.
okay.
We talked about obesity. 40% of Americans are clinically obese. 60% of Americans are overweight. That's children too. So there's 300 million Americans. So you're talking about, 130 million Americans are obese. And obesity leads to cancer, obesity leads to heart disease, obesity leads to dementia. It's hard going on a good diet. It's really hard. Only 1 in 10 Americans can go on a diet and lose enough weight that they have to. Only 1 in 10. So we've been looking for 100 years for a drug that works for obesity. 100 years, we've had nothing. Now we have a new drug. I'm not going to use the word miracle when I'm working with Reverend Jackson medicine. So let's just say that this is super important. What they found by surprise was there's a diabetes drug, and then the names of the drug are Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. That there's a drug that they gave diabetics just to control their sugar. And surprise, these diabetics lost 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds.
Hmm.
Realize that these drugs not only work for diabetes, but they're weight losing drugs. So these drugs work two ways. They go to your brain and make you not hungry. So obviously that's a good thing, because if you're not hungry, you're not going to eat. They also go to your stomach. What they do is you have a plate of food, you eat half the plate, your stomach goes out and says, I'm full, and tells the brain, I'm full. And if you take another bite, your stomach says, don't fool around with me. I'm telling you, I'm full. So you
Hmm.
have a plate. So you're not getting hungry. You're only eating half the plate. And we run what's called a cardiometabolic clinic, where we give out these medications. And we are getting 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds off of people.
Hmm.
Problem number one, it's an injection. You have to, it's with a tiny needle, it doesn't hurt, but it's an injection once a week. People don't like injections. By the way, it's going to be a pill within a year. Problem number two is getting the government to pay, because they're expensive. And right now, the government doesn't want to pay for it. So once again, getting back to structural racism, rich people can buy it over the counter. It's like $800 a month.
Hmm.
People cannot afford that. So we're desperately fighting with Medicare and Medicaid. The rumor is that Connecticut Medicaid is going to approve it pretty quickly. But this is going to be, semaglutide is the chemical name for the drug. This is going to be a very, very important way to combat obesity in children and in adults. It's a very exciting time in medicine. We just have to make sure that it gets fairly distributed amongst the population.
So, of course, someone asked the question, my wife actually, what's the side effects?
Okay, good question. 10% of people, 1 in 10, get an upset stomach, diarrhea, constipation. Any serious side effects are basically zero. So look, everything that in medicine has a good has a bad. If you're in the 10% and you can't tolerate it because your bowels are going crazy or you're getting nauseous, sorry. But if you're in the 90% that can tolerate it and you lose 30, 40, 50 pounds, you're going to be happy.
Mm.
Your doctor's
Well,
going, your blood pressure is going to go down, and your cholesterol is going to go down. And they just came out with a study a couple of weeks ago that if you have heart disease, if you've had a bypass, a stroke, a heart attack, a stent, and you take this medicine and you lose weight, your chance of getting a heart attack, a stroke, and dropping dead goes down by 20%. And believe me, now doing a study to see if this medicine prevents dementia and Parkinson's. So again, I'm not going to use the word miracle, but this drug is the biggest thing that's happened in medicine, I think, to me, in 40 years.
so two questions to that, Doc, and I certainly don't want to extend our time with this particular, but I think it's important. So just like the surgeries that people have had to reduce their stomach size and they've lost weight, if it is not maintained, and is this the same scenario with this pill? If it's not maintained, in other words, they don't continue to eat a balanced diet, they don't exercise, will the weight come back even if they take this pill? Much like again the surgery, I've seen that some of my friends have had it. They didn't work out. They're still eating kind of the same, and now they're back to the same size.
And another excellent question. Remember, by the way, it's an injection, not a pill. The pill
Right.
out in a year or two. When you stop the injections, some people gain back the weight. So it may be that you have to take an injection once a week, or when the pill comes out, that you have to take a pill every day. But if you have to, and that keeps 40 pounds off of you and lowers your blood pressure and makes you not get diabetes and makes you not get a heart or a stroke, it's worth it.
Right.
So obesity is a lifelong fight, like alcoholism. And if you have to take this medicine for the rest of your life, the problem is paying for it. But look, you take a blood pressure pill for the rest of your life, you take a cholesterol pill for the rest of your life. If you have to take, weight loss medicine for the rest of your life, I don't care. It's a lot
Right.
of hospital really sick.
So then my follow-up question to that is, as far as cosmetic surgery. Now, if a person loses 40 to 50 pounds, obviously their skin will need to be kind of tightened up so it doesn't look like they've lost that much weight. So again, I think disparity of perhaps income levels would maybe discourage people from getting, because if they lose so much weight, obviously they don't want it to be seen that they lost that kind of weight, and skin will be. So what would be your suggestion on that, or if have you seen that? Yeah.
You can lose 30 or 40 pounds without needing plastic surgery. You lose 100 pounds, maybe. But I don't see that as being a deterrent. I think the
Right.
problem is you got to go out and find a good tailor, and fix your belts and your pants.
Yes, sir.
These people who have lost 40, 50, 60 pounds, 80 pounds, they are dancing on air. They are ecstatic. They have thrown away half of their medicines because they don't need them anymore. They look better. They're faster. They feel younger. It's a giant breakthrough. It's just that the population is just going to have to wait a year or two for, number one, for us to get a pill instead of an injection, which is obviously a lot easier, and for us to convince everybody in Medicaid and the insurance companies and Medicare to pay for this and cover this.
Excellent. Any other questions before we let Dr. Schuster go for this evening? Any questions? Any other questions that persons may want to pose? Please do so now. All right, I don't see any, and checking all the platforms, I don't see any. So again, we want to thank you, Dr. Schuster, for coming and sharing with us virtually, and I hope to meet you in person soon. But again, this has been very helpful and informative conversation, and I pray that those persons who are listening or will listen even after today will take much of what we've heard and apply it to their lives, and I think we will be all the more better. So thank you so much. And certainly want to give a shout out to Brent, who made this all possible. He did text me and say he was watching. Again, he's in between two events this evening. So thank you, Brent, if you're watching still. And again, Dr. Schuster, thank you so much. And it's been a joy.
Reverend, thank you for having me. Everybody stay safe. Take care.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And God bless. Let me just close with a word of prayer. God, we thank you for what we've shared tonight. We thank you for Dr. Schuster and his awesome presentation. Bless us now as we continue to be good stewards over the body which you've given us. We pray your blessing upon all of us as we leave this virtual space. Use us now for your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you all. Again, just a reminder, Friday is the mobile food pantry at 1 p.m. If you're interested, please come and spread the word. Thank you again. God bless you, and we'll be in touch. Take care.